Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is the fourth night of the Hijrah, of the fourth night of the month of Muharram, year 1429. And before I forget, inshallah, next Friday is Ashura. So, and the fasting of the day of Ashura is recommended. Just make sure that you fast the day before or a day before and after. So, either fast Friday, well, Thursday and Friday, or Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I'll just leave it at that, without giving you a third or fourth option. So just pick one of the two, inshallah. And the day of Ashura, of course, has its significance, and this is not the time to talk about it. Maybe someone will talk about it next week, inshallah. But the month of Muharram is a month of victory. Also bear in mind that the month of Muharram is a sacred month. So, since especially issues that have to deal with violating the rights of others, it's kind of multiplied. It's even worse. I mean, it's bad as it is to commit any sin. And if the sin has to do with violating the rights of others or oppressing or wronging someone, it's even worse, because you're not only committing a sin, but you're also violating the right of someone. And we know that when you repent from such type of practice, you still have to make sure that you compensate whoever you violated or you wronged. But when it's one of the sacred months, then it becomes even worse. We're not saying that it's okay outside those months, but it's worse during those months. And those 4 months that have been declared to be sacred by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're mentioned in the Quran in Surah At-Tawbah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض. What did someone said? Something else? Oh, I thought I heard maybe some objection. يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها أربعة حرم. That the count of the months with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala since the day He created the heaven and the earth are 12. So the number of the month in a year are 12 months. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Minha arba'atu hurum, 4 of them are sacred. And those 4 months are Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijrah, Al-Muharram, which is this month, and the month of Rajab. In addition to the fact that, of course, the month of Muharram is a month where many incidents and events took place. And subhanAllah, there's an interesting connection between some of those events. Like, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory to Moses. So Moses, it was the month where truth, I would say, triumph over falsehood. So Musa and Fir'aun. It's also the month that some of the great people in history stood up for justice and for the truth again. And we know that Hussein radiallahu anhu, the grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was killed in his attempt to stand up for justice and for what is right, also in this month. So many things happen in the month of Muharram. But also the month of Muharram, it signifies something else. It reminds us of a great incident that may have not taken place in the month of Muharram. It took place later in the year, but it was the most significant incident or event of that year. And because of that event, that year was to be considered the first year of the Islamic calendar. When the Muslims established a calendar during the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar radiallahu anhu, they chose that year because of the significance of that incident that took place in the third month of the year. Yet that year, since it was that year where it took place, that year was considered to be the first year in the Islamic calendar. And that incident, which took place somewhere around Rabi', was the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. The word Hijrah is often translated as flight, and it is not a flight. This particular Hijrah was a well-calculated migration. Now there were other migrations that took place before that. There were actually two in particular that were temporary in nature, and they were minor compared to the Hijrah to Medina. So Hijrah means to relocate from one place to another, and it also means to transform, by the way. So it has to do with replacing something, or relocating, or moving from one place to another, especially if it's on a permanent basis. So when it's done on a permanent basis. So to call it flight is not an accurate translation. It is rather, migration. So, and the people that did that Hijrah are known as immigrants, al-Muhajirin. Now the Sahaba during the days of Mecca, they were under a great level of torture and persecution by the people of Quraysh, the people of Mecca. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, was given permission to the companions to flee or to go to Abyssinia to get relief. And that happened twice. So these are the two first hijrahs. But compared to this one that we're talking about, they're minor hijrahs, because not all the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, went to Abyssinia. And they did not go with the intention of establishing a community, but they went there with the intention of finding some kind of relief and the ability to practice their faith without having to be harassed or killed or persecuted. And it was mainly those who did not have any kind of support or protection, who did not belong to any strong tribe or clan in Mecca that participated. There were some exceptions to that, because some of the, for example, the Prophet ﷺ's own cousin, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, was amongst the people who went there. But the Prophet ﷺ did not join them. The difference between, which makes this hijrah very different from the hijrah that we're talking about. The hijrah that we're talking about is the hijrah to Medina. The Prophet, peace be upon him, after he had conveyed the message and made sure that he knocked every door in Mecca, that made sure that he actually got to every tribe, every clan in Mecca, started to go outside Mecca. And the majority of the people of Mecca refused. So he went outside Mecca, and he went to a nearby city, Taif. And the people of Taif also did not respond to the Prophet ﷺ. And then he started basically presenting Islam to the tribes that would come to Mecca. Mecca was a central location, and people used to perform pilgrimage even before Islam. And one of those seasons, the Prophet ﷺ had the opportunity to meet with a group of people from Yathrib that had come to the Prophet ﷺ. According to some historians, they said that Yathrib, the city of Yathrib, was torn because of civil wars amongst the different clans there, Al-Aws and Al-Khazraj. And they were looking for some kind of figure or someone who would help bring some kind of reconciliation between the two, and help them reconcile. So the Prophet ﷺ was sought, but the Prophet ﷺ also sought them to convey the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him with. So when he talked to them about Islam, they remembered that their neighbors, the Jews of Medina, used to tell them about a prophet who will come around that time, and that they will follow this prophet under his leadership, a prophet who will come with a divine message. So the people of Medina, they said, "Oh, this must be the man that our Jewish neighbors were telling us about." And they were able to recognize some of the signs that they were given. So a small group of people from Medina accepted Islam, and they went and carry the message of Islam to Medina. And the Prophet ﷺ sent with them some of his companions, in particular someone who played an instrumental role in spreading the message of Islam was a young man by the name of Mus'ab ibn Umayr radiallahu anhu. So Mus'ab went there, and the following year the number multiplied. I mean, quadrupled, maybe even more. And they came back to the Prophet ﷺ to give their pledge, and they extended their invitation to the Prophet and his companions to come to Medina. He said, now Medina is ready to accommodate you and your companions. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was not given permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this shows that his life, alayhi salatu wasalam, and many of the steps that he took, not only were they calculated, but they were actually measured, and they were sanctioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is Allah who would tell the Prophet ﷺ, yeah, make this move, make that move, don't wait. So the Prophet ﷺ had to wait for permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, the companions, many of the companions were given permission. And they were given permission earlier to go to Abyssinia. So some of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ started to go ahead of the Prophet, peace be upon him, to Medina. Go there and settle. And so Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu wanted to be amongst, and it is a sacrifice, but it's an honor. And it was known that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ used to, whenever there is a chance for them to sacrifice or do something, that they would do it right away. And amongst the best of the companions of the Prophet was Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So Abu Bakr wanted to leave, but the Prophet ﷺ told him, wait, don't go. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has another plan for you. Maybe you will have a companion. And this was a hint from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Abu Bakr. So Abu Bakr prepared 2 camels, and he was preparing himself to accompany the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he didn't know. The Prophet did not give him any promise. He did not say anything. He just gave him a hint. So when Abu Bakr wanted to leave, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, wait, لا تعجل. لعل الله أن يجعل لك صاحبا. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send you a companion, someone that will travel with you. So now the Prophet, peace be upon him, before that had a dream, and this was one of those, had a dream that he will settle in a land or a city that was surrounded by palm trees. Later that came to be true, of course, because the city of Medina is full of palm trees. Now, during this time, the Meccans were getting nervous about this migration that is taking place. Companions, people of Medina, the Muslims are leaving Mecca. And this made them nervous because to them, it was not about not having them around. It was about not wanting them to prosper in any way or fashion. And they know also that many of the companions, if they leave, they would leave with their wealth, and they didn't want to lose that also. And they knew that if the Prophet ﷺ would catch up with them, right? Although the Prophet ﷺ kept it low profile, he kept his plans to leave Mecca low profile. I mean, as a secret. Yet the word got out that the Prophet ﷺ may be leaving. So to them, they couldn't stand the idea of having the Prophet ﷺ leave Mecca, go to Medina, and then establish himself and establish his community there. So they came up with a plan. They got together down in Nadwa, and they plotted. And they agreed that the best thing is just to take, of course they had all kinds of plans. They said, okay, maybe we should just go and arrest him, and maybe we should go and just kick him out anyway. Others said no. But finally they agreed to assassinate or kill the Prophet ﷺ. Now they had feared that if they did that his clan or his tribe might seek revenge. So in order to overwhelm his tribe, men, as you know, they decided to take one young man from each clan and have them all strike the Prophet ﷺ at the same time. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala records that in Surah Al-Anfal, Surah 8, verse 30. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذْ يَمْكُرُ بِكَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِيُثْبِتُوكَ أَوْ يَقْتُلُوكَ أَوْ يُخْرِجُوكَ وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. And remember, O Muhammad, when the disbelievers were plotting against you to restrain you, kill you, or evict you, and they plotted, and Allah also planned, and Allah is the best of planners. They were plotting, and Allah was planning. Allah had His plan. The Prophet ﷺ was informed of their plots. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plans, and they plot. So just always remember this. Always. No matter what it is that you're facing or you're dealing with, no matter what it is that you're going through, remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control, and that Allah is watching, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, knows of what is happening. Right? And Allah has His plans. Right? Now, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan for you is to let things happen, then that is your qadr. That's your destiny. There's nothing you can do to change it, or to alter it, or to switch it. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if it's not meant to happen, and if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan is different, no matter what and who it is that they are trying, no matter what kind of forces come together against you, nothing will happen. And this applies to everything that is beyond our control, including death, by the way, because sometimes we get those panic attacks, right? We think we're going to die or something. You start, your heart starts racing, and you think you have panic attack, and you think, and subhanAllah, something that many of us don't realize is that when it's time to die, or when it's time for something to happen, you're not going to maybe even feel it or recognize it, or it's just going to happen, and you will be inshallah at peace. But Ali radiallahu anhu said something very interesting. He said that أَيَّ يَوْمَيَّ مِنَ الْمَوْتِ أَفَرْ يَوْمَ لَا قُدِّرَ أَمْ يَوْمَ قُدِرَ. He was always calm and content, and he said, which of those 2 days, he's using poetry, but he's saying, which of my 2 days I try or I attempt to escape death. Like your today for example, is one of 2 days. Right? Either the day he says, it's either the day I will die, or the day I will live, and I'm not going to die. If it's the day I'm destined to die, there's nothing I can do to escape death. And if it's the day that I am not meant to die, right? So what's the worry all about? And why should I worry? So and one should deal with almost everything in the same fashion. Likewise, if you know of any difficulty or any hardship that is coming your way, remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, that the Prophet said, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّمَا أَصَابَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُخْطِئَكَ. Remember that whatever befalls you, whatever happens to you, was not going to miss you. وَأَنَّ مَا أَخْطَأَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُصِيبَكَ. And that which you have missed, or that which have missed to you, was not going to befall you, was not going to happen to you. So no need for you to panic, no need for you to worry. Just be prepared and do your best. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they plot, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plans, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. Allah had another plan for the Prophet, peace be upon him. Now, as they have plotted, they came together and they surrounded the residence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with swords in their hands. Now the Prophet received a message. Jibreel actually came to the Prophet. Jibreel, peace be upon him, came to the Prophet, and he said to him, Ya Muhammad, la tabit fi farashika al-layla. That tonight, do not spend the night, do not sleep on your mattress or on your bed. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, left that day, early that day, during around noon. He left, and he had his face covered, and he went to Abu Bakr, to Abu Bakr's residence. Abu Bakr knew that there was something up, because this is not a time where the Prophet usually would come to him. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, talked to Abu Bakr, and he told him, he said, I was given permission to leave. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me permission to leave. So Abu Bakr said, O Messenger of Allah, then companionship. I would love to be in your company. So the Prophet ﷺ said, yes. And that's when Abu Bakr started to cry and weep. Aisha radiallahu anha said, I had never thought that one would cry out of joy, except that, until that day when I saw Abu Bakr cry out of joy. Those were tears of joy. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, O Messenger of Allah, I have prepared 2 camels for this purpose. He was just waiting for this to happen. The Prophet insisted on paying the price. They hired a man, who was actually an idolater. He was from the pagans of Mecca, or from the neighboring tribes, but he was known for his ability to guide them through the desert. And they took a route. They did not take the regular route that caravans usually take from Mecca to Medina. They took a different route. And the Prophet ﷺ instructed Ali radiallahu anhu to sleep in his place and cover himself with the Prophet ﷺ's. The Prophet had a sheet or some kind of upper garment that he used to wear. So Ali radiallahu anhu covered himself with it and spent the night. And the Meccans, every time they try to look through, they see someone covered, they thought the Prophet was there. Now in the meanwhile, the Prophet went back, got his stuff, and he left the house while they were surrounding the place. They were blinded, they did not see him. Now in order for them to recognize that something happened during that time when they were blinded, the Prophet, peace be upon him, took some sand, picked some sand, and he put some on their heads. Now the Prophet, someone said, made a very interesting comment. He said they were carrying swords and spears and all kinds of weapons. The Prophet ﷺ carried nothing but his faith and some sand in his hand. And this there is a great lesson for all of us. And there is also an answer to those people who accuse or claim that the Prophet ﷺ, went out with what the Prophet ﷺ carried to the world was a message of guidance. A message that brought enlightenment, that brought peace. And this is what he carried out of his place of residence. And he made his way out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guaranteed that He would protect the Prophet ﷺ until he delivers his message. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, made his way out, went to Abu Bakr, rode their camel, went with their guide, and instead of going north, they went south, toward a mount known as Mount of Thawr, where they stayed. They spent 3 nights there. Now the Meccans, of course, in the morning they realized they were standing there, nothing happened. They broke into the residence of the Prophet ﷺ to find Ali radiallahu anhu sleeping. So they left empty-handed, and they decided to chase the Prophet. And initially they went north, looking for the Prophet, peace be upon him. And then they figured that there are no signs, there's nothing. They went with all kind of, there were no tracks. So they thought maybe the Prophet went south. So they went south. And they were able to actually get to the cave where the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr were hiding. And they stood right by the entrance of the cave. And they did not see the Prophet, peace be upon him, or Abu Bakr. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually talks about in the Quran, in Surah Tawbah, Surah 9, verse 40. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ إِذَا أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ إِذْ هُمَا فِي الْغَارِ إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَنَا. Abu Bakr got nervous, not really for his own safety, but he was nervous that something might happen to the Prophet. These people might do some harm to the Prophet. So he was nervous, and he looked at the Prophet and he said, if any one of them would look down at his feet, he will be able to spot us. So the Prophet ﷺ, who was very calm, looked at Abu Bakr and he said, مَا ظَنُّكَ بِاثْنَيْنِ اللَّهُ ثَالِثُهُمَا. What do you think of 2 with whom Allah is? Allah is with us. Allah is protecting us. You don't have to worry. Just calm down. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that in the Quran, in verse 40 of Surah 9, if you just want to go back to it. So now they couldn't see the Prophet in the cave. This is the second miracle that happens actually in this journey, right? Then of course Quraysh go back, and the Prophet ﷺ, makes his way out of the cave, and he continues his way to Medina. Now, up until this point, there's a lesson for all of us, which is the fact that the Prophet ﷺ planned, and he planned very well. He had a plan, and he executed. Someone could have said, why did the Prophet ﷺ then have to really, keep it a secret, and have Abu Bakr, and then hire a guide, and do all of this? He actually planned, and then he went south instead of going north, and then they took a different route other than that route that normally caravans would take. He did all of these things. All these precautions were taken by the Prophet ﷺ. And that is a lesson for us. It is to teach us that we have to do our part. And this is the proper concept this is the proper way of doing what is known as tawakkul, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to do your part and then depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or as you do your part, you rely on Allah azza wa jalla. Because no matter how careful you are, if something was meant to happen, it will happen. If something was not meant to happen, it won't happen, no matter. But you still have to do your part. So no one is to say that, oh, no need for me to do anything, no need for me to plan, no need for me to, think, no need for me to worry, and not do anything, just wait for things to happen on their own. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You have to have full reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to believe, you have to trust. Your trust has to be in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at the same time, you have to do your part, whatever you're capable of doing. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you abilities, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you talents to be used. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you skills, including survival skills, for them to be used. Not to be tossed and not to be ignored. For them to be used, you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as you use them. And then once you have done your part, then the rest is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Success is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet did that, but at the end Allah showed us that ultimately it was the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like what happened with Prophet Musa alayhi salam. I mean, since this is the month of Muharram, his mother puts him in, first of all, she breastfeeds him enough, and then she puts him in a basket, she covers him very well, and then she puts the basket in the river. Right? If he's meant to be protected, she could have just tossed him in the river, and Allah would take care of him. He would just turn into a mermaid or something, and just make him his way. Right? No, she had to do her part, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the rest is upon us. Allah said, right? أوحينا إلى أم موسى أن أرضعيه فإذا خفت عليه فألقيه في اليم ولا تخافي ولا تحزني. Leave the rest, but do your part. Do the best you can do. Right? This is a very, very important lesson because many of us fail to plan, and then we suffer the consequences of our failure. And then we say, oh, it was the will of Allah, I guess it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to happen. No. And sometimes we might even try to blame our failure on external factors. It's someone else, it's some kind of magic, it's some kind of hasad, it's all kinds of things that we attribute our failure to. Right? So we have to do our part, and then show full certainty. And the problem is, you find that people who plan, you see, this is where many people fail. There are people who plan. They plan very well, and they execute very well. Their problem, however, is that they rely on their planning and their execution, on their skills. You should never rely on that. You should never rely on that. You rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your trust is in Allah. And this is the dilemma that many people find. And you find people who say, oh, I rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or I put my trust in Allah. They don't plan. You have to have both. Plan and your reliance, or you depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your trust is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something very difficult. This combination is very difficult to be achieved. So that should be the struggle of a believer. I plan, yet I don't rely on my planning, because no matter how much I plan, it may fail. I rely on Allah. And then I'm content with the consequence, with anything that happens, with the results. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, of course, makes it to Medina. On his way to Medina, something happens with Suraqa. Now, so the Prophet ﷺ finally makes it to Medina. And this is really what we need to reflect on. What did this Hijrah, this migration, what did it mean? And what did the Prophet ﷺ do? Because the first things, those things that the Prophet ﷺ did, his priorities, will tell you what the Hijrah was all about. Right? It will tell you what the Hijrah was all about. First of all, why did the Prophet ﷺ leave Mecca? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this shows us that the message of the Prophet ﷺ is universal. The Prophet was not sent to his tribemen. He was not sent to the Arabs. He was not sent to a specific group of people. He was sent, and his message was universal, and he was sent to everyone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ إِنِّي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ إِلَيْكُمْ جَمِيعًا. Right? Say, O Muhammad, O mankind, Surah Al-A'raf, verse 158. O mankind, indeed I am the messenger of Allah to all of you. From Him, to whom belongs the dominion of the heaven and the earth. There is no God except Him. He gives life and causes death. This is why the Prophet ﷺ had to leave Mecca. Because once he had finished delivering the message of Islam to the Meccans, right? Now he had the responsibility of going beyond the Meccans and delivering the message. And if that meant for him to relocate and leave his beloved city, because one actually incident I didn't highlight was that as he was leaving Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ, it was a very painful process. It was very painful for the Prophet ﷺ to leave Mecca, and he looked at Mecca and he said, Allah knows that you are the most beloved city on earth to me. And had your people not forced me out of you, I would have not left you. And subhanAllah, anyone that goes to Mecca now, right, cannot help but to fall in love with Mecca. So imagine if you were born in Mecca, born and raised in Mecca, and he went through a lot of things. The Prophet ﷺ, many of his friends and many of his family members, his wife, and his two sons, died in Mecca, and they were buried there. So there are a lot of memories. His attachment to Mecca was tremendous. But he had to give up all of that, because he had a mission. He had a message to deliver, alayhi salatu wassalam. And when the Meccans became an obstacle, and they wouldn't benefit from the message themselves, the Prophet had to go beyond that, because his message was not to the Meccans only, but to the world. So he had to deliver that message and go out. So this is a reminder, Hijrah is a reminder of the universality of the message of Islam. And the reason I'm saying this and I'm highlighting this is because we have to remember this. The Prophet and his companions left Mecca because they did not have freedom to worship and to practice their faith. Where they could find, they went to a place where they could find that freedom and that room to practice and establish and live their lives as Muslims. And this is similar to what happened with those of us who are immigrants here, who came to America. And we have to keep that in mind. Remember that we have a mission, and we have a message, and we have principles and values that are universal, that should be shared. And the best way to share them is to practice them and commit to them. And remember that you are, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, whether you are aware of it or not, you are a carrier of that message. You are either a passive member or an active member. Nonetheless, you are part of it. So either you are representing the Prophet ﷺ here. Because keep this in mind. Imagine if the Prophet ﷺ, if something happened in the world and America was the best place for the Muslims to live. Right? And the Prophet ﷺ was living now with us, and he came to America, or he came to Orange County. We would have had no option but to follow him and come here and be around him, right? Right? then would it be acceptable for any Muslim to say, yeah, but I'm an interior designer and I've got nothing to really share or contribute to the community, so I'm going to stay behind. I'm just going to show up once a week to Jum'ah prayer and that's it. Well, people would have had no option but to come. I mean, faithful. I'm talking about faithful people who really love and devote that, who have devotion for the Prophet ﷺ and his message. They would come and show up, more often and say, how can I help? I'm an interior designer. How can I, through my expertise, how can I help? Because, how can I help convey this message or share this message with others? So let's just keep that in mind, that we are, whether we like it or not, we are the representatives of the Prophet ﷺ. We could be either good representatives or terrible representatives. This is also a reminder that this deen was established on sacrifices. And those sacrifices were made even by the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. Many sacrifices were made. So you have to sacrifice something. You have to give up something. Now our immigration, is often, it's not to sacrifice, but it's to gain. So far we're not. All I'm saying at this point is that I'm not asking you to give up anything. I'm asking you to, appreciate what you have gained, what Allah, the opportunities and the freedom and all the chances that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you. Utilize them, use them. Don't sacrifice them, don't give them up. Use them to make a difference in the world. That's all. Okay. And of course, there is a great lesson for us and how the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, people like Abu Bakr and others, how they loved the Prophet ﷺ, how sincere they were. But what I wanted to focus on is, what did the Prophet ﷺ do when he reached Medina? Because that will tell you what the whole journey, what this sacrifice, what this whole event was all about. So what did the Prophet ﷺ do when he came to Medina? What did he do? No. So the first thing that he did, the first item, of course the purpose of his journey was to convey the message and the fact that the message of Islam is universal. So the first thing that he did, the first item on his agenda, was to establish a masjid. So before he even found a place for himself and for his family, a place of residence, before he even found a place, I'm talking about both, like temporary or permanent place of residence. The first thing he did, he established a masjid. Masjid Quba was built. Within 3 days, a masjid was built. And then he moves further into the city of Medina. Masjid Quba is outside Medina, the outskirts of Medina, because there was a Muslim community there, so he built for them, and they were on his way. He built a masjid for them. And then he continued further inside Medina, where he lived, alayhi salatu wasalam. And the first thing is that they found a spot that was suitable to build a masjid. And everything had to come around that masjid. So everything else. First the masjid is built, and then the residence of the Prophet ﷺ near the masjid. And then the companions of the Prophet ﷺ started to either build houses or move near the masjid, or some of them started to buy properties and lands around the masjid. And the community was established around the masjid. So this shows us the importance of a masjid. And the masjid has to be the first thing to be established and built. Usually people wait until they establish themselves and then... And not only building the masjid, but maintaining the masjid. Not only establishing the masjid, establishing the institution, but actually maintaining it with activities and programs and using the masjid for what it's meant for. The 5 daily prayers. Right? So maybe one day, and we have talked in the past about the role of the masjid. That's not what I'm trying to talk about today. What are the roles of the masjid? But the importance of the masjid. Now, why am I saying this? Because some of us choose to stay away from the masjid. Some people like to stay, to be as far as possible from the masjid because they just don't want to mess with the community. They don't want to be near the community, right? Or they like areas maybe. And this is a problem when we plan as a community. We have to keep this in mind. The masjid has to be built in a residential area. A residential area that is suitable for people, that has in an area that has good what do they call it? With a good school district. Yeah, all these things have to be taken into consideration. Usually, Muslim communities, what do? They choose the cheapest area in town to build the masjid. Why? Because you just want to go. And they don't live there. They live away from the masjid. So they come to the masjid once a week. Or once or twice a week, and they're not. So the masjid is really not the nucleus of the community. And this is not the prophetic model. So this has to be. Another reason I'm mentioning this is because if you're far from the masjid, then you might need to relocate and consider. You might want to do an internal hijrah, or like a minor hijrah. Because if you live far from the masjid and you just come once a year to the Eid prayer, and you consider that like the greatest, some people they might even pray qasr, right? And they travel like an hour or to go to the masjid and bring your family to the masjid once a year. Chances are that within few years you're going to lose that family. You're not going to have a family. That family that you bring once a year to the masjid because you live too far from the masjid, you're probably not going to have a family. It is the masjid and the community and the congregation that will help you maintain this family. So you have to come. And if that means that you need to come closer to the masjid and move near the masjid, do it. The Sahaba used to do this. Once the masjid was established, the companions were competing and buying properties around the masjid and building houses. The closer the better. So, and my recommendation is that you should be, in case there's an increase, there's like a crazy increase in the oil prices, you should be within a walking distance from a masjid. So you can walk to the masjid. But it is very important to consider the masjid not part, but the most critical part of the community and the family's life. Okay. So that's the first thing that the Prophet ﷺ did. After he moved to Medina, what did he do? He built another masjid. Same thing. The second project that the Prophet ﷺ had was to bring peace between the various tribes that were fighting, whether they're Muslims or not. Right? To establish peace amongst those tribes that were, or clans that were fighting. And there was a treaty that was agreed upon. And there was a truce that was administered by the Prophet ﷺ. If there is no peace, there is no community. I don't care how many masjids you have, there is no peace. So if there are factions that are fighting, whether it be two boards or two clans or two whatever it is, you have to make sure that all of that is settled. Right? So this is one of those top priorities for anyone that wants to establish a community. We need to bring peace, right, between the masajid or within the same masjid. Right? The third item on the agenda of the Prophet ﷺ was to establish some kind of an agreement between the Muslims, the Muslim residents of Medina and the non-Muslim residents of Medina, including the Jews. And there was a treaty that was agreed upon. What are the terms? How do we coexist peacefully? How can we make sure that everybody has their opportunity to live their lives? And so this was guaranteed, and this was established in Medina. by the Prophet ﷺ. So the initiative was taken by the Prophet ﷺ. So this is very important, peaceful coexistence, because only if there is peaceful coexistence would anyone be able to establish a family or establish a community or establish a system. And this was very important in establishing the Islamic community and establishing the system. That's how it found its strength. So the Prophet ﷺ took the initiative in doing that. Actually, before all of these things, right after the masjid, there was one very important process the Prophet ﷺ did. After bringing those fighting clans together, the Prophet ﷺ paired the Muhajirin and the Ansar in a process known as al-Mu'akha. So the immigrants, each one of the immigrants was assigned to one of the Ansar. And the Ansar became basically the official title of the residents of Medina, who accommodated those who came from outside. So the Prophet ﷺ paired the companions. So an immigrant is assigned to an Ansari. Ansari means helper, to take care of him, look after him. They both, and the immigrant, basically the Muhajir, has something to share with the Ansari as well. He's not going to become a burden on him, but he has something to share. What do you think it is? The knowledge of Islam. Because the Muhajirin, had advantage over the Ansar because they most of them had more knowledge about Islam. So this was the idea. Was that done by the early immigrants here? What is it even being done as we speak now as a Muslim? So we have to take this into consideration. You cannot build a community until you bring some kind of harmony, and you build a bond between the immigrants and the indigenous, Muslims. This is not happening. We don't find immigrants basically having programs and activities where they teach, where they share, where they help, and we don't have, much going on the other side either. So that has to. Everybody's just doing it on their own, and that's why we don't have real brotherhood. The bond that they. That's why when we read examples of some of those stories that happened, like between Abdurrahman ibn Auf and Sa'd ibn Rabi', some of us are shocked. Really? Sa'd ibn Rabi' offered one of his two properties to Abdurrahman ibn Auf at no cost, nothing. And what did Abdurrahman ibn Auf do? He took advantage of that generosity of Sa'd ibn Rabi'. No, he said, Jazakallah khair. And their bond was. Umar radiallahu anhu had a deal that he made when he had to move to the outskirts of Medina. He made a deal with an Ansari neighbor of his. He said, "You go one day, I go one day. It's too far to go. It's too hard to go to the masjid every day. So you go one day, learn, see what comes from the wahi, from the Prophet ﷺ. You attend the salah and everything. I look after your family and after your property. You come at the end of the day, you share everything with me. The next day I do the same thing." Sometimes we don't even exchange phone numbers. We're we don't even know much about each other. So that has to change. In order for a community to be established, that bond has to be created. That network has to be established. And inshallah, this year we have a plan to do that, to work on that here in the masjid, inshallah. Start all kinds of networks. One of those projects that were suggested, it was very, it's a simple, project, but very beneficial, was to start some kind of, those phone messaging service where you get, you sign up for this service where you get a text message on your cell phone of any important event or incident that takes place in the community. If there's funeral, you get a text message saying that there's janazah prayer tomorrow at 1:15, Masjid al-Rahman. So just to stay connected. In some communities, they started a wake-up call system. Just give people a wake-up call for Fajr prayer. So that way you have a larger or a better turnout for the Fajr prayer. Okay. So these are some of the prophetic projects that took place in Medina. Now we know what the immigration or what the migration was all about. Why the Prophet ﷺ? right? Because of this. So now one has to really, in order for this hijrah to count for us, if we did any hijrah, in order for our existence anywhere where we have all kinds of opportunities to count for us, in order for us to reap the fruits and get the reward, we have to maybe change our intention, or we have to rethink about the intent. What's the purpose of our existence here, or our hijrah? Why are we here? Achieve the American dream, and have a beautiful, big, huge house, a nice car, and play golf, and smoke cigars. Is that the plan? Is this what we gave up, many things, or we left our homelands? And what made us leave our homelands? So we have to really think about that. What was this hijrah all about? I mean, what are we doing here in our lives? This is a question that we have to answer. What deserves all of the sacrifices that we make? Some people say, it's for my children. Where are your children? It's another question. And sometimes we make sacrifices for things that are not really worth it. Things are really not worth it. So, and our lifestyle, will tell us what our lives or what our sacrifices are all about. So, inshallah, Azza wa Jal, hopefully we'll take this event, of the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ as a source of inspiration for us to start again. I mean, this is the beginning of the year. This is the third day. Inshallah, you can come up with all kinds of plans for the rest of this year, and make your intention, inshallah, to make a difference and change things. Well, you kind of answered. Let me start with the second question, because you kind of answered the question and you gave the answer for the question that you asked. Medina was where Islam was established, where the community was established, where the companions.
There are lots of attractions. I mean,
yes, you see, that's why it's very important to understand and realize. Abu Darda radiallahu anhu moved to Jerusalem. He went to Bayt al-Maqdis there. He was very passionate. This is a land that, he went with the expeditions that went to that land, and then he settled there. Abu Darda and Salman al-Farisi were paired. They were brothers. They were looking after each other. So Abu Darda wrote to Salman al-Farisi, right, a letter. Salman al-Farisi at that point, I think, he went, for da'wah and for, the same purpose, but he went for Iraq. He went to Iraq. Now, Abu Darda wrote a letter to Salman al-Farisi, and he said, هَلُمَّ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ الْمُقَدَّسَةِ. He said, why don't you come and join me and come and live in this sacred land, the Holy Land. So he invited him to the Holy Land. Salman radiallahu anhu wrote a letter back to Abu Darda, and he said, إن المرء لا تقدسه الأرض التي هو عليها ولكن يقدسه عمله. He said, what makes a man holy is not the land on which he lives. It is rather his character and his deeds. That's what makes him holy. So yes, Mecca is indeed, sacred, and it's the most sacred land, and all the Muslims loved it. But Medina was the capital of Islam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meant for it to be the capital of Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ stayed in the capital to show the importance of what took place in Medina, the establishment of the community and the character building that you were talking about. So and Medina remained to play that role for a long time. And if you look at
any instruction from Allah
about the Prophet was, well, this takes us to the first question. The Prophet was guided in all of his actions, or guided. In any of those actions where he acted on his own, he was either approved, his judgment or his choices were either approved or they were corrected. And we know of many incidents where the Prophet's choices or judgments were corrected, right, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will correct him, or will show him, or will tell him what was better in that regard. So it is indeed. In fact, when the camel in Medina, when the Prophet arrived, and the people of Medina are very generous. Until this day, actually, they're very generous people. Everybody wanted to basically grab the camel and host the Prophet, peace be upon him. Everybody wanted to be the host of the Prophet. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, told them, leave it, leave it. دعوها فإنها مأمورة. Leave it alone. For it has been inspired. So the camel was inspired, and the Prophet ﷺ let the camel go around, and where the camel went and actually kneeled was where the masjid was built. So the camel was actually guided, and it chose the. In fact, they say that the camel kneeled, got up, and left to another spot, kneeled, and basically that area, that square, was chosen, was marked as the location of the masjid.
Not a small question.
Yes.
Like literally, who follows Ansar? This word was given by Meccans to them, or any Qabila like Ansar was there, big Qabila?
No.
You said that there are lots of small Qabila that came for fighting among themselves.
The people of Medina were made of two major tribes, or major clans, Aus and Khazraj. And before the Prophet ﷺ, before immigration, before the Prophet ﷺ's move, and him calling them Ansar, and then the Quran of course later came and established, further approved that name. Before that, that name was not known.
The literal meaning is?
Ansar means helper or aid. Aid or helper. Someone, a provider of aid or help is called, it comes from nasr, to support or to. So it means supporter, aid, helper, that's what it means.
So the derivative of nasr?
Yes. So, and subhanAllah, thus it became almost an honor, to be an Ansari. The Prophet prayed for the Ansar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised the Ansar in the Quran. Same thing. So it became people were at that point either Muhajiri or Ansari, one of the two. And then of course, after Fath Mecca, after the opening of Mecca, there were no more Hijrah, no more Ansar. I mean, the Ansar, of course, and their descendants maintained that status or that name. And the Muhajirin, same thing with them, but there was no more Hijrah. So that marriage was, so people Muslims were either someone who came from outside Medina, that person would be called Muhajir, or someone who was from the people of Medina, that person was Ansari. Inshallah, we'll have to conclude, but I just wanted to tell you that inshallah we're going to have an introduction session, and then we're going to have three from now until the end of April, inshallah, there will be 3 sessions about the Islamic etiquettes. All the Islamic etiquettes, and I'll try to present it in a way that makes it interesting, and we'll pass out. I would want you to take notes, and I will give out a summary of those Islamic etiquettes. The idea is, inshallah azza wa jal, in this first quarter of the year, is to create some kind of project for the parents to work with their children. So we talk to the children about certain things and about the rights of the parents and being good Muslim and practicing Islam. And we talk to the parents, we talk to the children about that. We talk to the parents about all the crises and all the challenges that their children are having. Now what we want to do is, I want to say, okay, these are the Islamic etiquettes. Let's all practice them, but this is what you need to be reinforcing and teaching your children. So when you go home and you start reinforcing or teaching them those etiquettes, inshallah azza wa jal, and we'll discuss different ways of teaching them and helping them commit to those etiquettes. Your children and your children, his children, her children, will all be learning the same thing. So when they come here, they will hopefully, inshallah, be able to help. Everybody will be on the same wavelength. Am I making any sense? So inshallah, what is that? Yes, exactly. So inshallah, we'll have a series of talk on the Islamic etiquettes, and give the evidence for each one. So instead of just talking, and also that will help us separate culture from the cultural principles from the Islamic principles. So hopefully, inshallah, we'll go home after those sessions and focus on the Islamic teachings, because there's plenty and there's enough in them, and that way it will make sense for the children, and everybody will be learning the same thing. So hopefully, inshallah, this will be a successful project. I'm looking forward to it. I'm so excited about it. And I look forward to work with you on it, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Inshallah, tonight's lecture has to do with the life of our honorable Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And inshallah, as soon as the disruptive Abu Muhammad and Abu Yusuf leave the place, we'll start. As I was saying last week in the khutbah, this month of Rabi' al-Awwal, the third lunar month, Rabi' al-Awwal, is a very important month in terms of what had taken place in this particular month in our history. A lot of people are familiar with one event that took place, which is the birth of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which indeed it seems to be, according to calculations and the accounts of historians, it seems to have taken place in this month. There's pretty much consensus amongst historians, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, and amongst scholars, that the month of Rabi' al-Awwal is the month in which the Prophet, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, was born. Pretty much there is no disagreement on that. Another consensus is on the day of the week in which the Prophet ﷺ was born. Obviously, the Prophet ﷺ, based on an authentic hadith collected by Imam al-Bukhari, the Prophet said about the day of Monday, يوم ولدت فيه. This is the day in which I was born. Right? So there's pretty much agreement on that. Now, as to when the Prophet ﷺ, out of the month of Rabi' al-Awwal, when he was born, that's a matter of khilaf. That's a matter of disagreement. And there are reports that suggest that he was born on the, I think, 2nd or 4th. There's another one that suggests that he was born on the 12th, which is most popular, however not the most authentic. Most popular, but not necessarily the most authentic. And there's the opinion of it that was chosen by Ibn Hazm and many others, that he was born on the 8th. And this is what actually is, this is what I would say, according to the calculation of Al-Khwarizmi, who was a mathematician, and he was an astronomer, it actually says that he was born on the 8th of this month of Rabi' al-Awwal. This seems to be the most authentic of all. So most likely the Prophet was born on the 8th. Now someone might say, why is it that when it comes to the birth of the Prophet there's all these different opinions? Simply because Arabs, the ancient Arabs, were not the type of people, let me just turn this off. They were not the type of people that calculates with the days. But when it comes to years, they used to give years names, like Am al-Ramada, during the time of Umar, right? Am al-Fil, the year of the elephant, right? Am al-Huzn, the year of sadness or sorrow, which is the year in which the Prophet ﷺ's wife and his greatest supporter, as well as his uncle Abu Talib, second greatest of the supporters at that time, both passed away. So that year was named or titled Am Huzn. So they used to name the years, but not necessarily and the month of course had names, but the days themselves did not necessarily. But when the Prophet ﷺ had the companions as his followers, his day of the other dates, the other important dates of the Prophet ﷺ's life were recorded, or we have reports giving us better idea when the other events took place. Okay. So when it comes to the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, there's a big debate on when the Prophet ﷺ was born. The popular opinion is that he was born on the 12th. Now the issue of him being born on the 12th, although it's a popular opinion, kind of there's an aspect to it that there's something that has to do with the 12th that disturbs me, especially when I see signs of celebration of the 12th, especially. See, a lot of people say the Prophet ﷺ died when he was 63 exactly. So he was born on the 12th, and guess what? He died on the 12th. It happened to be a Monday, and he died on a Monday as well. We know that he was born on a Monday, and he died on a Monday, right? So, one of the scholars says that celebrating his birth is not necessarily any more significant or important than being sad on a day in which the Prophet ﷺ died. The death of the Prophet, or the 12th, actually brings back the memory of Medina and what Medina had to go through, right, when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. Anas ibn Malik said that the day the Prophet ﷺ arrived in Medina, everything lit in Medina, everything basically illuminated in Medina. It was the brightest day of Medina. And the day he died, ﷺ, he said darkness covered every corner of Medina. It was the darkest, it was the saddest day ever that Medina had seen. The Prophet ﷺ's death took place on the 12th of Rabi' al-Awwal. This is the most authentic of all. So the 8th was when he was born, the 12th was when he ﷺ died. And another incident took place during the month of Rabi', which is Hijrah. And if you remember at the beginning of the year, I said we'll talk about the significance of Hijrah as a concept, but as to the details of Hijrah and some of the greatest lessons of Hijrah, that I said we're going to be discussing in this month, because this is what had happened. And I intentionally did this just to bring that awareness. A lot of people talk about Hijrah, and they're under the impression that Hijrah took place in Muharram. No, actually Hijrah took place in Rabi'. But the reason the calendar starts with Muharram is because Muharram is the first lunar month. So when Umar basically decided after the consultation of the Muslims, he decided to use the Hijrah to be the most significant of all events in the history of this Ummah, and to be considered the birth of this Ummah, right? Umar radiallahu anhu started with the year the Prophet ﷺ migrated, but not necessarily the month. Because the month was the third month of the year, but he went back and started from Muharram, basically, right? But that doesn't mean that the Prophet ﷺ actually immigrated towards the end of Safar. He left Mecca towards the end of the month, the second month, Safar, and he arrived Medina in the first portion of Rabi'. Again, there are differences of opinion. Some scholars even go to the extent of saying that he arrived Medina on the 12th. They go to, so he was born on the 12th, according to them. He arrived Medina on the 12th, and he died on the 12th. And some people are very interested in these kind of details, and to me, I don't see much in it. But I see a lot in the story of the Prophet ﷺ's Hijrah, right? Migration from Mecca to Medina. Now, someone might say, what's the significance of the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ? Why is it so important? Of course, the fact that it was used, as, do I need to say the turn of the camera? The fact that it was used to mark the beginning of our calendar Islamic calendar, shows that the Hijrah had significance not only in our eyes, but in the eyes of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. They considered the Hijrah to be the most significant of all events. It marks the birth of this ummah, the beginning of our history. Although, we had the birth of the Prophet, we had the creation of Adam, right? All these, that's part of Islam, right? But Hijrah was the turning point. Hijrah was the first victory. Someone might say, Umar accepted Islam, and the Prophet considered that to be a victory for Islam and Muslims. But the greatest of all victories was what? Or the first of the greatest of all victories was Hijrah. In the process of Hijrah, many things, many of I would say, many of those elements that represented evil were defeated. On a personal level, evil was defeated. On a societal level, evil was defeated. So, Hijrah does not only, it's not only important because it's part of our history or because the Prophet ﷺ made Hijrah. No, it means a lot to us. And we should understand what it means to us and discuss this issue of the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. We talk about the concept of Hijrah, so let's talk about the Hijrah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. See, when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam declared his message and he made it public, the struggle, a new struggle between falsehood and truth. Good and evil, right? Light and darkness started, a new struggle, and this struggle was pretty much the pressure or the triumph was one-sided. Right? But when the Prophet ﷺ left Mecca to Medina, what seemed to be a loss, what seemed to be a defeat. When you have something, when you abandon your city, or when someone drives you out, when they kick you out, that is pretty much what do you consider that to be? A defeat, right? Defeat, especially when you're going somewhere, you're not retreating to any place that you don't know, you're going to a brand new place that you don't know whether it's going to work out or it's not going to work. No. But the Prophet ﷺ shifted. And that's why I find in the Hijrah of the Prophet, can I move around please? This thing is keeping me. In the Hijrah of the Prophet, I see a lot of hope. I see many lessons on the individual basis. A lot of us are really, I know individuals that could actually benefit from the Hijrah of the Prophet if they reflect on the Hijrah of the Prophet. A lot of us are stuck in situations. It could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be a study, it could be certain circumstances in which we are limited, in which many people are very depressed with what they do. Are you guys with me? Many people are very depressed, many people are very down, right? And some people are caught missing a lot of opportunities. They're caught up in their own little corner, their comfort zone. And they don't go beyond that. They don't try to basically explore. They don't try to go to different domains. So they get stuck. They're in the same spot, same place. Years pass by. Hijrah, in my opinion, is one of those inspiring stories that will help us as individuals, even as individuals, to see hope beyond our circumstances and situations. Because in Hijrah you have to sacrifice, you have to leave your comfort zone, you have to put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to have some kind of strength, you have to endure. And all these elements are elements of success in life. So that's what I see in the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's another beautiful aspect when it comes to the Hijrah. We know about Isra and Mi'raj, right? How many of you know about Isra and Mi'raj? The Prophet ﷺ's journey from Mecca to Bayt al-Maqdis. That was further than Medina. Yet that was not Hijrah. Why? Because he came back. Right? It was a two-way, it was a round trip. Mecca to Medina was one way. And when you do one way, there is much more what? Much more sacrifice. In fact, you take much more risk, especially nowadays. You're most likely to be flagged, right? And you might be subjected to extra screening if you do one-way reservation. So just keep that in mind. Okay. But Mecca, Jerusalem, it was multi-destination, and then heaven, and then back to Jerusalem, and then Mecca. It was a round trip. Mecca to Medina was pretty much in the beginning, it was what? It was a one-way. It was one-way. Isra and Mi'raj, it was done with the least amount of effort from the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet did not have to sacrifice. He might have to give up a one-night's sleep, that was it, and if he woke up, but it was... But Medina, the Prophet had to sacrifice. And the Prophet had to put a lot. The Prophet had to plan. The Prophet had to spend some time, spend money. And someone else had to spend money too. So, Hijrah, the Prophet with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had done most of the work himself. The planning and all that. But Isra and Mi'raj was a miracle. And he rode an animal that took him. Right? And by the way, if the Prophet asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, just get me out of this, take me to Medina. He could have just gotten the easy way out of Medina, out of Mecca, right? Went to his bed, and then Jibreel brings the Buraq again. He rides the Buraq. This time the journey is even shorter. Maybe with one jump, he's in Medina. That's it. Salaam alaikum. People don't have to wonder where he is, and that's it. The Buraq will take him right from his bed all the way to where the Masjid al-Nabawi was supposed to be built. Buraq lands right there. Okay, this is where we're going to build the Masjid. It's over. No. That's not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed it. That's not how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it. And instead, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam planned, prepared, and then executed, and then endured, and then was at great risk, and then all the drama, all the little things that happened in Hijrah, just amazing. And each one of them bears a lesson for us. We would have not been able to relate to Hijrah as we should and as we do right now if it was like Isra and Mi'raj. Right? Who can do Isra and Mi'raj? It's prophetic. It's from the Prophet ﷺ. We can. Oh Allah, take me to Jerusalem. So I wouldn't have to go through any of those checkpoints. Oh Allah. It's for the Prophet ﷺ, exclusive for the Prophet ﷺ. But when it comes to Hijrah, it's required from all of us. And, you might find yourself in a situation where you might have to do Hijrah of some kind. It could be minor Hijrah, it could be major Hijrah. You have to take certain decisions, you have to abandon something, or you have to give up something, sacrifice. But we would have not been able to relate or get any lesson from the Prophet ﷺ on story if it was done like Isra and Mi'raj. So the fact that the Prophet had to go through all the steps to make this Hijrah, in that there is a lesson for us. And that's why it's important. Hopefully I made that point clear. Okay. So, in a nutshell, real quick, what happened in the Hijrah of the Prophet? First of all, real quick, I don't have to even go into a lot of detail. Hijrah was not a retreat, it was not a defeat. The Prophet ﷺ was not backing down, the Prophet ﷺ was not compromising, but the Prophet ﷺ had fulfilled what the first, you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had planned it out for the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet was guided throughout his life. Right? He did not necessarily sit at the beginning of his da'wah and say, you know what, I'm going to give Quraysh 10 years from the moment he declared. 3 years, he didn't say, 3 years will be secret of da'wah, where I'm going to adjust to the whole thing and get used to it. And then it was declared after 3 years. 10 years, we're going to give Quraysh 10 years. And then I'm going to give Medina, or the Muslims of Medina, I'm going to give them a chance of 10 years, another 10 years. But he didn't listen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala planned it. The Prophet was guided throughout the whole process. After 3 years of secretive da'wah, the Prophet himself getting to know what it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commissioned him with, the Prophet was just trying to adjust to the whole thing of, when you become an economic leader, let us not say a da'wah, when you become an imam, you have to adjust to the whole idea, to the whole concept of being an imam. And it takes you some time, especially if you have to deal with a difficult community. Right? That was a joke. So, now the Prophet was commissioned with Risala, with prophethood. It's new to him. In the beginning, the first time he received the message he saw Jibreel, he didn't know what to make out of it. He didn't know. Right? And in a very innocent fashion, he goes to his wife seeking support, which by the way shows, right? The Prophet's initial reaction to the whole thing shows that the Prophet was not an imposter. He did not sit for 40 years planning the whole thing out. No, he was shocked. He was as surprised as anyone else. Oh, me? What? You have to deliver the message. Now it's an obligation, it's a responsibility. You can't back down. You can't compromise. There are many responsibilities that come with prophethood. Rest is over. When the Prophet, after he received the message, he went to sleep. Right? The first few days he went to sleep and he was covered. Allah revealed to him first, Ya ayyuha al-muzammil, Ya ayyuha al-mudaththir, qum fa'anzir. Get up and sit. Time for sleeping and resting, and it's over. It's all over. Get up. والضحى, at the end of Surah Al-Duha, نشرح لك صدرك. Allah reminds him who's bound, he's upon him. At the end, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? When you are done with whatever we have given you, any responsibility that we have given you, when it's all over, what should you do? Go and play golf and relax and have fun, right? Or go to some of those places where dealers and just have fun. No. فإذا فرغت, when you're done, فإذا فرغت فانصب. Get up and pray. Get up. Fansab, meaning stand up and pray, worship. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he reached the age of 40, it was the beginning of that, when he was staying in his life. So the Prophet didn't know what to make out of it. He went to Khadija. Khadija basically helped him out, and she went to, took him to Waaz and all that. And then all basically. So the Prophet ﷺ, for 3 years, he invited the people around him. He didn't have to declare it or make it public, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, وَأَنْزِلْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. Now you have to make it public. Right? So the Prophet made it public. The minute he made it public, see, initially Quraysh had an idea of what was happening, but the minute he made it public and he became a threat, everything changed. Now it was totally a different game now for them. So they started persecuting the Prophet and his companions and everyone that responded to them. And despite the Prophet's attempts, sincere and genuine attempts and tolerance of what they put him through, it didn't help. But alhamdulillah, some people accepted Islam like Umar, Hamza, and the rest of the companions of the Prophet. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Quraysh enough time to either accept or not to accept it. Right? It was time for the Prophet to go beyond Mecca. Now we have fulfilled it. Every household in Mecca heard about Islam. Your job is to deliver. And in that there is a lesson for us. Our job is to deliver the message. You see, many of us sit around and why do they have bad idea about Islam? Why do they hate us? Well, we haven't done our job in delivering Islam. We have not delivered anything. We're sitting around expecting people to really understand who we are and why we do what we do, which is totally different from what they're used to. No. So our job is to deliver. And our job is not necessarily to impose Islam or take the Islamic values and really implant it in someone's system. No, we can't. We don't have that power. We don't have that role. And it's not our responsibility to do that. It's actually up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Nor we have the ability, even if we assume that responsibility, we don't have that responsibility. So the Prophet ﷺ was to deliver the message to every household, which he did alayhi salatu wasalam. Through his dedication, his work, da'wah became his job 24/7. The Prophet did not clock in and clock out. Because you can't stop being a Muslim or being a da'i. You can't go say, oh no, that's it. It's my day off, so I'm not going to leave Islam. Some people do that, right? It's my day off, so today is my day off from da'wah, so I'm not going to talk about Islam. Or someone calls in, or someone comes to you, tell me about Islam. You're like, well, it's my day off today. No, there is no such a thing. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. Who is better in speech than he who calls to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. And this is our job. Why? Because it was the job of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the Prophet did this throughout the 10 years, right? And then when he delivered his message to every corner or to every household in Mecca, he was ordered to go beyond Mecca. Now, go beyond the Meccans. So the Prophet ﷺ went to the closest place to Mecca, Taif, and he got a reaction from there. He was actually going. They stoned him, chased him out of the city of Taif. You know something very interesting? We were talking the other day, Sheikh Rashid al-Qasi. We're sitting, we're having Mishari al-Qasi, sorry. Mishari, I keep calling him Rashid. So Mishari al-Qasi, or as I call him, Manura, we were sitting and talking, and he was telling me about how he was in Taif. And then they were leaving. They actually trespassed. He didn't know that particular. They were in the hills of Taif, and they wanted to go somewhere. So they went through the land of someone, a man from the people of Taif, and they didn't know that this was someone's property. He doesn't have any signs. He doesn't have any nothing. So as they were walking, he said he started stoning them. Started throwing rocks at them. And he said, oh my God, the people of this city, I mean, they have a history of stoning. Anyone that comes to them, from the time of the Prophet until this day, they're still stoning people. It's just weird. You know something, when he said that, I didn't mention it, but when he said that, he reminded me, how many of you went to Hajj? You remember seeing baboons? Baboons. It's a type of monkey. Do you remember seeing baboons around no? In Mecca, the mountains of Mecca. Taif is full of it. Taif is full of baboons. But that's not the funny thing. You know what he's... Huh? No, it's not. It's a monkey. Yeah. You didn't watch The Lion King? The Lion King. What was his name? The Lion King? Rafiki. Except that the Meccans are not colorful. They're all much more colorful. But anyways, the strange thing about the baboons of Taif, those monkeys, is that if you bother them, or if they don't like you, guess what they do? They stone you. They stone you. And I know about someone who actually got in a car accident because they stoned his car and driving. So watch out when you go to Mecca, or especially when you go to some of the mountains like Halaqa or Hijrah. If you see them, don't mess with them. They are the toughest I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, they're very vicious, so stay away from them. Anyway. So the people of Taif stoned the Prophet ﷺ, he lead them, he delivered the message. Now the Prophet ﷺ started taking advantage of opportunities like Hajj season, where people come from different parts of Arabia, and people come even from other than Arabia. They come to Mecca, and he started basically sharing the message with them. Finally, a group of people from Medina accepted his message. The early Muslims of Medina. And the Prophet ﷺ said with them, Mus'ab ibn Umayr, and then Mus'ab ibn Umayr basically did a wonderful job. And speaking of Mus'ab, Mus'ab ibn Umayr was a youth. He was a young man. A man who spoke the language without an accent. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ chose him. And he was a very elegant, very attractive, someone who knows how to carry himself and how to speak. And he was very captivating. So within a year, he was able to basically multiplied, the number of Muslims who accepted Islam through Mus'ab in that 1 year was almost close to the number of Muslims who accepted Islam in Mecca. Right? Mus'ab radiallahu anhu, there are some stories of him. Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, you know who Mus'ab has on his list of people who accepted Islam? People like Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, Usayd ibn Hudayr. These are big names, big champions. These are the people that Mus'ab ibn Umayr, and they were the chiefs of their tribes. So the young Mus'ab basically was responsible after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger for these people's acceptance of Islam. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, now when there was a good number of Muslims in Medina, and the Prophet could have just left Medina straight, but he had to wait for permission from Allah because his entire life is guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it was up to him, he would have left. Which again shows that he is a messenger whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنْ أَتَّبِعُ إِلَّا مَا يُوحَى إِلَيْهِ, saying that I only follow that which is revealed to me. And even if you don't read the Quran, if you study the seerah of the Prophet, you will find enough evidence that this man cannot be anything other than a prophet from Allah. Because in his life, he was guided in every step that he took. And if he took any step on his own that was not approved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would be corrected. This is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the Prophet had to wait. Permission was given for the Muslims, for the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to leave from Mecca to Medina. Now that they have another place that they can call home. Because home, brothers and sisters, is not, as we said when we talked about Hijrah, home is not necessarily a place where you were born. You know, I know how painful it could get when someone hears something like this. It is not, because none of us really, I mean, you don't choose a place in which you're born, right? Nowadays, people could be born they could be born while flying, and also could give birth. So, what is home? If you're flying from Canada to America, what is home? You're taking a flight, especially if it's on JetBlue, right? So you're thinking, well, what is your home? Some people are born inside the car. I mean, what is home? Home is really, right? Home is where you can practice your beliefs. That's home. And for a believer, you know, as Shafi'i rahimahullah said, he said this entire planet is too small for a believer to be called home. Because a believer is universal. The entire universe is your home. So wherever you are, wherever you can please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most, that's home. Wherever you can please Allah. And that's why the companions of the Prophet went to Medina, they called Medina home. But guess what? How many of them were buried in Medina? We know the Prophet ﷺ, when he made his Hajj, he had over 100,000 followers. 100,000 followers. How many people are buried in Medina? Within the city of Medina. Or in Al-Baqiyah? Not more than 10,000. That's what, 10%. The rest of them where? They were buried all over the place. Right? What is known now as Iraq, Syria, Iran, as far as Egypt, right? And southern parts of Turkey. That's all over the place, the companions of the Prophet. Yemen, they were all over the place, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, because their mission or their home was where they could make a difference and where they could actually be pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most. So the Prophet informed the companions that they were given permission to go to Medina. So they started going to Medina. Of course, amazing stories of how they left everything behind. We talked about Suhaib, we talked about Umar radiallahu anhu, how he left. But there was one person that was not given permission to leave, and that is Abu Bakr. The Prophet told Abu Bakr to stay. Right? And of course, he informed Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu to prepare 2 camels. Abu Bakr prepared 2 camels, and the Prophet came up with an entire plan. Right? He came up with a plan. The plan included things like Abu Bakr preparing the camels and hiring a guide, a person, pretty much a navigation system, right? Who was not even a Muslim, Abdullah ibn Ubay. They hired the best at that time. All of them was not a Muslim. And in that there's a lesson that you go after what? Quality and experience. And if that means that you may not, you may choose someone that is not of your faith, be it. Right, so the Prophet hired Abdullah ibn Ubay, who not only was the best, but also he had what? He had good manners and good ethics. He had some decency. Because we don't want someone who is going to expose you or someone who is going to betray you as well. So you have to, basically make sure. The Prophet ﷺ had arranged for Ali ibn Abi Talib to sleep in his place. So when Quraysh look at, when they peek through the holes, the cracks of his door, they see someone laying down, so they think it's the Prophet ﷺ. And he came up with the entire, basically, plan. And instead of going north to Mecca, out of Medina, out of Mecca, what they did is they went south first, and then they made a U-turn, and then they went up to Medina. Right? So they took the longer route, and they went south. And when they went south, the Prophet's plan was he had two people, to help him with this. Abdullah ibn Abi Bakr was supposed to bring them the news of the Meccans and what is happening, right? He was more like his communication, right? Asma was to bring them the food, right? And Amr ibn Fuhayra, who was Abu Bakr's servant, he was supposed to bring the sheep to where they were. They had a herd of sheep. So he brings the sheep. They drink from the milk. And the sheep will erase the footprint of Abdullah and Asma. You see how this is just an amazing. And the whole thing was set by the Prophet. This whole plan. And so the Prophet goes south to a cave, stays there for 3 days, and then they proceed to Medina. Not using the regular routes that everybody used, no. But a different route through the desert. They navigated through the desert, following Abdullah ibn Ubay. This was the plan of the Prophet. Sounds good? Sounds good. Execution, excellent. To the best. After all, you must have what? Tawakkul. You see what happens with people is if they plan well and they execute well, they usually rely on that and they give credit to what? To their planning skills and to their execution and all of that. But in the case of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah wanted to teach us a lesson of how good planning has to be coupled with what? Full yaqeen, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and certainty. So, Islamically speaking, you must plan and you must execute well and you must do your best. But at the same time, which is a very difficult test, you do not rely on your planning and your execution, but you rather plan on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His guidance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His guidance. After all, it's the will of Allah. So with the Prophet doing all of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made everything succeed, except that Allah azza wa jalla wanted to teach us a lesson in reliance and in yaqeen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu to see also the great miracle. Quraysh, after all of this, they said to themselves, wait a minute, what if Muhammad did not go north? Because they went north, they couldn't find anything. What if he went south? So let's go south and find it. They got all the way to the cave. And if you have not been to the cave of Thawr, I'm not saying, maybe you should make a special trip. Don't go for it. During Hajj, I don't advise people to go there because it's just very exhausting. But one day I remember we had a special trip just to that, for that. We didn't even go for the sake of, we didn't go for Umrah. We did ziyarah, we did tawaf in Mecca, and then we went with our shaykh, our teacher, and some of the students. We went to the cave of Thawr. And it was about 45 minutes going up and 15 minutes coming down. And as we were going up, we're talking about men, right? We're going up, wallahi, the whole time we're going up, I'm like, radiallahu anki Asma, radiallahu anki. And the whole time I was praying for Asma bint Abi Bakr. She was pregnant. She was pregnant, like 6 or 7 months pregnant. And she was taking the food for 3 days for the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr all the way and coming down. I'm like, how did she do it? How did she do it? In the process, we got injured, anyway, we got to the cave. When you get to the cave has 2 openings. It has 2 openings. Anywhere you stand around the cave, you'll be able to see anything. Anything inside the cave. If anything crawls, if an ant crawls, you will be able to see. Exactly. Right. But that's how wide open it was, the cave. Guess what? They got all the way to that place. But they did not see the Prophet or Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr was a long time nervous. He was nervous. And then he said, Ya Rasulullah, لو أن أحد نظر إلى موضع قدميه لرآنا. If any one of them would just look down, he would be able to spot us. The Prophet was sitting there, lying down, and he's just calm. In fact, as soon as the Prophet entered the cave, what happened? He went to sleep. Abu Bakr was nervous the whole time, he couldn't sleep. The Prophet went to sleep. And as the poet says, وَإِذَا الْعِنَايَةُ لَحَظَتْكَ عُيُونُهَا نَمْ فَالْمَخَاوِفُ كُلُّهُنَّ أَمَانٍ. That if you are being watched by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you are under the protection of Allah, and you understand that, and you have a connection with that concept, and you believe in it, then you will be comfortable. You will sleep. You will have no problem. You'll be calm, you'll be... So the Prophet said, he looks at Abu Bakr with a smile on his face. Ya Abu Bakr, ma dhannuka bithnayn, Allah thalithuhuma. What do you think of 2 whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with? Allah is with them. Allah is watching them, Allah is their third. Allah is with them. With His protection, with His... They were not able to see the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam or Abu Bakr. And by the way, the story of the spider web and the pigeon eggs and the pigeon nest, that story is not authentic. It has no basis. It is of the spices that some historians and some storytellers added. But it has no basis. It has no historical basis. The story is fabricated. Actually, according to some scholars, the whole story is fabricated. Yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah, it's a story that the chain of narrators is not authentic. So the story does not stand. So when you know this piece of information, you go like, wow, no spider web, and they still didn't see them. And by the way, if you go and see the cave, you will understand also. You will get another reason why the story does not stand. Because it has 2 openings, and the opening is just too big for a spider. I would love to see what kind of spider can make a web there to block someone from seeing anything. But the story did not stand. Right? So, but they were not able to see him. They were totally blinded. Just like they were blinded when the Prophet went out of his house. There Allah teaches us a lesson. Through His Prophet's reaction of yaqeen, tawakkul, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Further, the Prophet ﷺ leaves after 3 nights. They could not find him, and they take that route that nobody else took before. And guess what? Someone catches up with them. Surah ibn Malik. The whole story of Surah. Again, the Prophet is walking. When Surah caught up with them, he started shouting, "Wait! I got you! I caught you!" And Abu Bakr is getting nervous, and he turned around. The Prophet did not even turn around. The whole time, he's just walking, focused on his goal. Focused on his destination, Medina, did not get distracted by any of those things. So he just walked. He did not even turn around. Oh my God, really? Someone caught up with us? I should be here. So the Prophet is walking, and guess what happens? Suraqah gets in trouble. And now Suraqah, who was threatening the Prophet, shouting at them to stop, he himself got in trouble, and his according to some reports, his horse sunk inside the sand, and he started shouting for help. This time the Prophet turned around. Why? Because someone is calling upon him for help, and the Prophet cannot ignore that. So he can take off his eye off his destination for a second to help someone who needs his help. So the Prophet turns around. to help Suraqa, a man who was about to inflict harm upon him. And he gives Suraqa relief. Not only that, but he said to Suraqa, I cut you a deal, better than this. We'll let you go. I'm not going to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to destroy you and kill you right here. He could have done that. But he said, we'll let you go. But go back and try to keep him away from us. And the Prophet promised him the bracelets and the crown of Kisra, the emperor of Persia. When Suraqa heard this, he says, Kisra ibn Hurmuz? You're talking about, are you talking about the same Kisra that I know? That I hear about? He said, yes, Kisra ibn Hurmuz. نعم, Kisra ibn Hurmuz. كيف بك يا سراقة وأنت تلبس سواري كسرى وتاجا. Suraqa said, fine, I'll take it. So Suraqa leaves, becomes Muslim, of course, later. And then on his way back, he found people coming, trying to explore that side of the road. And Suraqa said, go back, Kufiki. He said, go back, you don't need to. I've went as far as anyone could go, and there is no one there, go back. And the Prophet ﷺ, of course, makes it all of it. Of course, speaking, let's just go back, you know what happened with Suraqa, right? Suraqa ended up being amongst those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed to open Iraq and what was beyond. And Suraqa it was delivered. Actually, Umar, according to some narrations, it said, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and some narrations say Umar delivered what the Prophet ﷺ had promised Suraqa to him. And Suraqa put them on. Although it was not allowed, but because the Prophet ﷺ's promise, Suraqa was allowed to put on what was not those bracelets and the crown. And he sat down in front of everyone. He sat in front of everyone wearing them, and everyone saw the fulfillment of Prophet ﷺ's promise. And it's a promise where he made it when he was what? Chased. He had nothing. The Prophet, he had at that time, according to anyone who looked at that situation, he had nothing. He had no control of Kisra or the future. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, who would make such a thing? Who would make such a promise with that level of confidence? This is a messenger from Allah, someone who was granted the future. So the Prophet ﷺ, well, of course, one thing we notice is, imagine being amongst the companions who saw this, the fulfillment of this. How do you feel about it? I wonder sometimes how the Sahaba, the reason they had that level of amazing commitment to Islam is they saw the fulfillment of the Prophet ﷺ's promises right in front of their eyes. So the Prophet reaches Medina, and you know the rest of the story. As the Prophet reaches Medina, it's said that the first person to spot him was a Jewish man, and he shouted. He said, "Hada jaddukum, this is whom you have been waiting for." He shouted at the Sahaba, so the Sahaba went out receiving the Prophet. One thing to be also mentioned, I know some people are going to go like, "Oh my God, he's just..." the Sahaba at that point did not sing Qala al-Badr. It is not. Sorry. Okay. Qala al-Badr alayna, actually it is more correct. Qala al-Badr alayna was sung when the Prophet came back from one of his expeditions. And perhaps it may be Tabuk. When he came back from Tabuk, they sang Qala al-Badr alayna. Because actually the poetry said Qala al-Badr alayna min thaniyat al-wada'. Thaniyat al-Wada' is to the north of Medina, and the Prophet entered Medina from the south. They could have not said that. So historians say that actually not only does that, it looks like Allah Ta'ala Qala al-Badr alayna is something that they sang actually later on when the Prophet came from one of his expeditions. Perhaps it may be the expedition of Tabuk, but the Sahaba did actually sing at one point or another. They sang Qala al-Badr alayna من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع. Can we sing it? We'll sing it inshallah. So the Prophet reaches Medina, of course. We'll talk maybe 2 weeks from now about what the Prophet ﷺ did when he reached Medina. What was the agenda of the Prophet ﷺ when he reached Medina? We stop right here, and we, of course, I'll take any questions from the audience if you have any questions. We have a few minutes, yes?
It's a very good picture, but there is one important point
Yes.
you didn't mention.
Yes.
And I think it is so important.
Sure.
The job of Abu Bakr, his job.
Yes.
His job it was not easy at all. It was very difficult. Because his job was to protect the messenger, the prophet, Rasulullah. And there is the ayah in the Quran which says, "Thaniya This is important. What does it mean? Because, the scientists, they, speaking about this ayah and what does it mean? They said that Abu Bakr could not be the first, although Abu Bakr, he was always the first to enter the cave, the first to come out, the first why? Because of protection for the messenger. So this is important. ثانية اثنين إذ هما في الغار. ثانية اثنين, this is the ayah which made the scientists, have different ideas about this.
Okay.
So, it mentioned that he was, nervous. He should be nervous.
Oh, okay. Exactly. Why was Abu Bakr nervous? It's not necessarily for himself. Of course, it's obvious from the story of Abu Bakr with the Prophet in the journey. And then every time shifting from one side to another. And then sometimes shifting from the front to the back. The Prophet noticed this pattern of Abu Bakr. One time jumping on his right, one jumping to the left, and then going to the front, and then coming back all the way to the back, the whole time. And then finally the Prophet said to Abu Bakr, "Why are you doing all of this?" He said, "Ya Rasulullah, كلما تذكرت الرسل." He said, every time I think that there might be someone trying to ambush us, I go forward just to make sure that everything is clear. Right? And every time, وكلما تذكرت الطلب, then every time I remember that there could be someone chasing us, I go back. Right? Just to make sure that we're clear from all sides. Secret Service. And just making sure that it's all clear from all sides. So Abu Bakr was protected. In fact, it's said that when the Prophet came and approached the cave, out of respect, he would let the Prophet go in first. But Abu Bakr did not allow that to happen. He actually asked the Prophet for permission to go in first. Made sure that the cave was clear. Didn't have anything. And in some narrations it said that he made sure that he plugged all the holes inside the cave. There could be any insect, anything, any harmful thing that might come. And Abu Bakr, the Prophet when he slept, where did he sleep? On Abu Bakr, his head was on Abu Bakr's lap. Of course, did the Prophet choose Abu Bakr to be his protection or to be his guard? I don't think that was necessarily the case, but Abu Bakr assumed that responsibility on his own. But the Prophet chose Abu Bakr because he was the best companion to have. And to make us realize that companionship is very important. Although the Prophet had Allah, and he didn't need any companion. The Prophet said, لو كنت متخذا أحدا خليلا لاتخذت أبا بكر خليلا. And he said, if I was to choose anyone as my, it would have been Abu Bakr. So they said this is for the Ummah to learn the value, to know who Abu Bakr was. Abu Bakr had privileges, and he had lessons, one-on-one, with the Prophet that nobody else had. So the Prophet was preparing Abu Bakr for this. Some scholars say this. Some scholars say that Abu Bakr was the best companion to have. He was very respectful, he was not loud, he was not... when the Prophet arrived in Medina, some people who have not seen the Prophet, there were many people who have not seen the Prophet. At that point, a lot of people had not seen the Prophet. So they didn't know who the Prophet was. Abu Bakr or the Prophet. And Abu Bakr looked older, although he was 2 years younger than the Prophet, but he had gray hair. The Prophet did not have any gray hair. So they did not know who the Prophet, which one was the Prophet. You imagine, Prophet he must have some gray hair. Until they saw Abu Bakr shading the Prophet when he went and he started providing a shade to the Prophet they realized who the Prophet was as they were approaching from distance, which one was the Prophet. So was sent, for sure. So Abu Bakr had a great role, but he had a great privilege as well. Radiallahu anhu. He was being prepared for a mission. Now, any other question? Any other question? Yes.
You said at Medina, did our personal level. Say something.
No, what I was saying was hijrah.
What?
Hijrah. Leaving something and just walking out or walking away from something, from a situation, may be seen by some people as a defeat. It is not a defeat if you're trying to go to a different domain. It is not a defeat if you're trying to explore new opportunities. It is not a defeat if you have a plan, you have a vision. If you know what it's not a defeat, it's just another state if you're trying to move forward in your life. Sometimes people, for example, they could be in a very destructive, very unhealthy relationship, for example. To them, they don't see anything beyond it. Sometimes people could have a miserable life with their job or their study, but they don't see any hope beyond that. And they get stuck in what people call comfort zone. And they think walking out from something that is not working, if something is not working out, walking away or walking out of that situation, many people, they consider that to be failure and defeat. And that's not the case. If you are going, if you're shifting, if you're going from that destructive, unproductive lifestyle or career or whatever it is that you're stuck in, if you're going to explore something different, right? That's not a defeat, it's victory. And Hijrah was that. The Prophet left Mecca is the best city, the holiest city, and it's the place of his birth, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yet he was directed to go to Medina and leave Mecca to explore some new dimensions and to start. And this was a turning point in it was a victory. Hijrah was a victory. So what I'm saying is we can draw some personal lessons from the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even on our personal level. Hijrah is not something that only scholars or organizations can benefit from. And even on the personal level, there are many lessons that we can get from the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. Any more questions, inshallah? We have 3 minutes left.